Thanks for joining me on episode 505 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Mario Pareca from 10 Minute Mindset, the podcast. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the right inspiration to set your mindset on the right path is key, and one way to be inspired to do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my good friend, Scott Mader.
But the most important thing is recognizing that you have it. And then when you do see it, call it out and begin to take the power to choose, begin to take the power to say, this is not going to be how I choose to see the world. I can choose to see the world differently.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode about investing in others through stewarding your treasures, I talk with you about what a scarcity mindset is, what an abundance mindset is, and how you can begin to cultivate a mindset of abundance.
As we talk about stewarding your treasures, wouldn't it be great if you could support this podcast and do it without costing yourself an extra dime? Turns out you can. All you have to do is use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon when you're ready to make a purchase via Amazon, and a small commission will come back to support the show. If you enjoy the show when you're ready to buy from Amazon, just use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon.
Let's talk about the difference between an abundance mindset and a scarcity mindset a little bit. At its simplest level, a scarcity mindset is this belief that there's never enough, that there's a limited amount of whatever, and if I get some of it, someone else doesn't, and if someone else gets something, then I can't get it. It's this feeling that you're going to run out of resources. There's never enough of anything. The interesting thing is about a scarcity mindset is it gets to be this very self-fulfilling prophecy. When you begin to see the world as never having enough, you begin to feel stress and fear and anxiety and worry that begins to highlight for your brain the places where it feels like you don't have enough. And I did say where it feels like it, because the interesting thing is you can have a scarcity mindset even when surrounded by tremendous abundance. It's what leads us sometimes to hoard our resources, to hold on to them so tight out of the fear of losing them that we can't allow anything else into our life. I've seen people with tremendous net worth, huge incomes, making large amounts of money, what anyone would look at and consider a really abundant life, have this mindset that they didn't have enough. And what's more, it was going to go away very quickly, that someone else was going to come along and take it, and that they had to fight and scrap and push others out of the way and down so that they could get what they needed. So the alternative, obviously, is an abundance mindset. And this is a mindset or a belief that there is more than enough for everyone, that there's more than enough money to go around. There's more than enough time for people to get what they want. There's more than enough clients for all of the businesses in the world. There's more than enough energy. There's more than enough money. Whatever it is, the abundance mindset is this grounded belief that there's more than enough. And what's interesting is, again, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you become someone that believes in abundance, then you begin to take control of your life. You begin to see choices and power that with a scarcity mindset, you don't even recognize that you have. Because even when things are going badly, even when the world is coming at you really fast and things are going wrong, you take the power to choose how you respond to that. You begin to make a mental shift that you have the power of change, and that begins to transform your life. You begin to no longer have a fear of loss, which allows you to grow and expand and do things that you would never do with that scarcity mindset. So how do we recognize it? And what do we do to begin to cultivate an abundance mindset? Well, first off, one of the things that has to happen is you have to begin to break out of your comfort zone. You begin to have to do and think things that you aren't comfortable doing. This is one of the reasons that working with a coach can help, is because a coach can push you to go beyond your own comfort zone. You have to begin to recognize that you have a power of choice and that you can begin to see the plenty and the positive side. You can begin to think about life in a way that allows you to see the wins. So how do you begin to do that? Well, we've talked before about breaking limiting beliefs. We've talked before about reframing your life. And those are the techniques that you can use to begin to cultivate an abundant mindset. The first step is to recognize yourself when you take on that scarcity mindset. Recognize when your brain says, there's not enough, I'm afraid, I have to defend what I have. And when you feel yourself doing that, call it out and write down or speak out loud a response to this. This is simply how I'm seeing the world. This is not the truth. This is not the reality. The reality is there is enough. The reality is I'm surrounded by abundance. This is why doing a daily gratitude journal can help you develop an abundance mindset. As you sit down every day, and every day you have to write 3 different things that you are grateful for. You begin to see the abundance that surrounds you. You begin to recognize that even if you're struggling, you've got way more than you believe. You begin to see the gifts and the blessings that come into your life. So that's one of the techniques that you can begin to use to break down that scarcity mindset. But the most important thing is recognizing that you have it. And then when you do see it, call it out and begin to take the power to choose, begin to take the power to say, this is not going to be how I choose to see the world. I can choose to see the world differently. I can choose to recognize the blessings and the gifts that surround me. I can choose to recognize that even though I'm struggling, there's more out there. This is why volunteering for organizations and being someone who gives regularly, monetarily and otherwise, can help you. Even if you're struggling, giving a regular tithe or gift helps you recognize that there are people worse off than you, and that you still have strengths and abundance that you may not even see. So some of the techniques to get an abundance mindset, to begin to recognize it. One is recognize when you have a scarcity mindset and call it out for yourself. Give yourself the power to choose. 2 is to do regular giving. And 3 is to go through the limiting belief exercises and begin to break down that scarcity limiting belief. And then 4 is to do a regular gratitude journal. If you do these things over time, your brain will begin to recognize the fact that truly you are blessed beyond belief. And that will break down your fear and things that are holding you back, and you'll begin to push through and grow. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of treasures, you can sign up for our treasures tips by going to inspiredstewardship.com/treasures or text in the U.S. 44222 treasures tips. And we'll send you 5 weeks of our best tips on stewarding your treasures. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.